This episode is sponsored by Zenro Clothing Co. Pick up your tees and or accessories at zenroclothingco.com and be sure to use offer code Socrates at checkout for 20% off select items. Also, if you're not into spending the money, just check out the Zenrail radio playlist. zenrailclothingco.com, music for your everyday. This episode also sponsored by The Portian Bakery. If you're located in the Portian area of Scarborough, Toronto, be sure to check out The Portian Bakery, say what's up to Arville, and pick up a donut or two. Baked daily, crafted with love. This episode also sponsored by Podbean. Podbean is the podcasting platform of choice. It's the one that me and Vish use, and is great, you know, if you're looking to start that DIY podcast yourself. Definitely check out Podbean. Use the link podbean.com/SocraticGamers and gain 1 month of unlimited podcasting for free. Test it out, build that content. Anyone could podcast, right, Vish?
Yep.
Start a podcast and get your ideas out there. All right, enjoy the episode. All right, so we're doing this on a holiday Monday, and I was thinking about this one this morning, and I thought it was pretty interesting how, you know how, like, most Asian spots are always open? Have you noticed that? Like, even though we have this holiday Monday kind of thing, and then you get, like, other holidays like Easter, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know, like, because you live in an Asian area, that's why I'm bringing this up. So I'm sure, like, do you notice it as well? Like, are most things open in your? Actually, I know one that's open. That's why I brought this up because I was like, I have to return this like Uniqlo thing that I bought, and then I knew like Yorkdale was closed. I'm like, oh man, I'm sure Markham's got to be open though because they're Asian. And I looked and like totally, yeah, they're open. They always seem to be open.
I think it was another like we didn't realize that it was like some other long weekend or something, and there was more people in that mall. I was like, oh, it's like a holiday. Why is there like people here? But it was like no other mall is open. It was just Markham that was open. I was surprised by that.
Right. It's so weird though because you're like or the other one that's always open is Pacific Mall. So Pacific Mall, but that's all in the same area as like that Asian. Like it's like so Asian heavy there. And like we have an Asian pocket here where I live, but like there's still like the Western stuff. So like those are all closed, but then you see the Asian stores are always open, which I think is so interesting. It's like, why did you get away with that? Is it like a religious thing? You know what I mean? Like
yeah. No,
you know, because like yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was just like more. Maybe it was like a voting thing. Yeah, most stores wanted to be open. So okay, well.
Oh, really? Okay.
I don't know. I'm just
you think it's something like that.
Maybe
because I know that they have to pay a fine if you're open. I heard that somewhere like in business. Like if you stay open as a business on one of these holidays, you pay a fine. But I wonder if there's like some exemption because you're like, oh, I don't ascribe to this religious holiday. Sort of like
I don't know
like
if it's necessarily
people.
a fine, but there's things like the workers have to be paid,
like extra,
extra
totally.
and stuff like that for holidays. So
yeah, okay, yeah, that's true too. I
Like-
wonder
like-
if that's like
like
across
for
the
an-
board though. Yeah.
I think like I know like for the longest time it was McDonald's that's open like
Oh,
all
yeah,
year
them
round
too.
except for
Yeah,
like
McDonald's.
except for the one day that's I think Christmas Day.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. It's like you just make so much money that you're like, okay, I can pay the staff people like this additional amount.
Yeah,
Or
and
you're
then,
like-
and then it's also like I think because everything else is closed, most people are going to come here anyways. So you're gonna have an increase in revenue to cover if there is those
true.
kinds of costs. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always funny the holiday system here because you like because you and I both grew up in Fort Union and always if there's a holiday everything's closed for like miles and miles, right? So we're like I always assumed like oh nothing else is open. It's not until like moving out of that area that you're like oh no like certain things will stay open like because culturally like in that pocket people still want to
Maybe.
shop, I guess, you know.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Weird. Yeah. I just like thinking about that like a lot for like the like Christmases, New Year's, like New Year's Day, like because they have the Chinese New Year on a different time.
Yeah.
So like I wonder if you can get around it with like not religious exemption, but I know that like certain organizations, like if they're like Muslim heavy, they'll take off the Muslim holidays, but not the
Mm-hmm.
like the other
Sure.
ones, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
We're like quickly becoming this more globally culturally aware society, and it's funny because it like creeps up on you. We were watching I Think I Love My Wife with Chris Tucker.
Okay.
So all right, so when we were younger, like you and I, Tara too, remember like Super Bad and
Mm-hmm.
like the Rat Pack stuff, like Wedding Crashers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we remembered from that era and we're like, okay, nothing's coming out that's new. So let's watch um like one of these old movies, right? And as we were watching it, everything was so archaic. And when they said the year, I was like, that wasn't that long ago.
Mhm.
2008. And you're
Yeah,
like it doesn't sound long, but like that's actually 15 years ago,
yeah.
you know? And back then like everyone was still acting the exact same way. Like we were laughing about the portrayal of the African American in I Think I Love My Wife was Chris Tucker, and he was acting so like for lack of a better word, like white. And that was the idea that they were selling to us at the time. And like we were laughing, like, oh, okay, yeah, you're trying to build the American dream, like, oh, I need these two kids and like this car and this job I hate, all this. Like it was like laying the foundation, right? And then now it seems archaic to think about that kind of stuff, even
Mm-hmm.
like water cooler humor,
Sure.
like where it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
everybody's always talking about the same things and within those 15 years, technology has advanced so much that what we talk about and like the ideas are totally different. You
Yeah.
know,
So
it's like,
something. I mean, yeah, you said 2008, right? The
yeah,
iPhone came out 2007, so that was
there you go. Oh, dude, the internet in everyone's pocket.
yeah.
That's the other crazy
That's what
part.
changed it. Yeah.
No, but really
Yeah,
though,
yeah,
like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
weird. You know what I mean?
I mean, it
Like it's
was
weird
like it
to.
was you got to it was the start of it, right? Because there wasn't really an app store that we
Mhm.
have today, and all the social media that we have today. It was
Right, right, right,
this is,
right.
but it was the iPhone that made that happen.
Yes, 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 100%. And it's crazy because it's like he was such a visionary. Steve Jobs saying like, "Oh, it's a what do you say? It was like the radio music player." Remember
Yeah,
the
yeah,
things that
yeah,
he was
yeah, yeah, yeah,
saying?
yeah,
You
yeah,
remember
yeah.
what the specific things were?
Internet
Like that,
communicator and
yeah.
phone, music, like all that stuff. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then
Yeah.
he's like, "Are you getting it yet? Are you getting it yet?"
There's
It's all in one.
another
You're like, "What?"
there's another one I saw recently came across on TikTok where it was like he was discussing podcasts and like
Okay.
where right that word where that how that word came about
No,
iPod and broadcasting
no,
became
really,
podcast. Yeah.
such an influential. Like this is crazy to me. Okay, wait, I don't want to like veer too far away from that culture because like that's an interesting one. Just seeing like the mindset of the time. We'll get back into this though, the future
Mm-hmm.
tech thing, but the mindset of the time was wild because you're like everybody wanted the same. The whole story was about. At the end, we were like, what even happened? So he was a married man, and like he hated his wife and his kids, and then he met his old girlfriend who he used to go clubbing with and all that stuff, and then she hadn't settled down, and then by the end of the movie, the whole takeaway was you can't just club for the rest of your life. She's like, oh, I'm like 32, and like I
Mm-hmm.
can't be at the bars with these like younger girls because nobody's looking at me. So I need to settle down. So she married somebody who she didn't love, but she knew that she needed to do it to like settle down, like him, right? Like, oh, I
Right.
like that's just where we're going. And it was just weird because it's like, oh, these are like you're really trying to program the nuclear family into everything, even like African American culture, even like Indian culture, even like Asian culture. Like they were trying to push their nuclear family narrative to the masses. Because like I watched that movie, I'm like, no, that's like a white person's life, bro. Because if you did that now, he'd be like, he would never have acted like that. Like, like going to the bank. Like, he's a banker, and he's like going to the
Mm-hmm.
bank and then like shopping for like dress clothes and like yeah, maybe some people, but like he was trying to fit into a society where he felt like he didn't fit in. You know what I'm
Sure.
trying to say?
Yeah. Yeah.
But then now if you jump to 2024 and you're like, it's cool to be yourself,
Mm-hmm.
like inclusivity and all that stuff. like even though like some parts of inclusivity are like kind of iffy, but it's like, do you, bro? You into that? Do it.
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
You know, and that's kind of the mindset where we're at now. Whereas before it was like, oh, if you don't like what everyone else likes, you're weird.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now
Yeah.
it's like if you don't like what everyone else likes, you're ahead of your time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Weird. And like you still see that kind of old school programming in certain people, but I feel like it'll wane off. Like the more the internet just keeps taking over, because you got to think like 2008, we still had like blockbusters.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like we still had I don't know what are some other things that we just don't do anymore. The biggest one for me is like the blockbuster,
Yeah, going to get movies or
right? The movie or like renting video games.
Yeah.
Because we were also laughing about the fact that these movies are so terrible because we're like, oh, this movie's gonna be so good because it was from that time, and then we're like, oh, this movie's trash. So we switched the movie, right? Oh, we ended up finishing it because we're like, let's just finish it because like, what's the storyline? But it ended up being like no storyline. So we're like, oh, we did waste our time.
Right.
But it's funny because now we could switch. Whereas, like Tara was saying, if we had rented that, that's our night.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Crazy, bro. Remember we used to like walk to Video 99 together, and then you get like chips, like what was it? Cheetos,
yeah.
maybe some Skittles. Was it Skittles?
May have been. I remember there was vanilla Coke or something.
Vanilla Coke, yeah. And then you'd rent a movie from Video 99, and you just watch. That would be your night. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, bro, that is what we did. Like we literally were stuck with one thing, and now we're so what do you call that? We're so like spoiled.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's wild to think about.
But it's very interesting to see because there was a thing that I saw on Itchy Boots, what happened recently. We've changed so much in this quick time, whatever the iPhone time.
15 years.
Right?
Wild. Like,
yeah.
2008.
And,
like, what?
And the technology that we have. And she stopped at, so Itchy Boots, so this is like the YouTube, driving around in Africa.
Oh, so people who don't know, it's this girl who like takes a bikes around the world. Right now she's in Africa.
Yeah. So she stopped in a place like on a bridge spot, and some people like just showed up, but they've never seen her use a drone before. They've never like, what is this?
Wow.
This is some alien.
Yeah.
This is some cool
totally.
weird technology. What is this? It's like because this is not in their world, right? So it's like just for her to show them how it works, and like it just flies and like takes all these videos. It's like
totally.
But that's what I'm saying. There's a spot. There are places in the planet that are still in the old way. It's still, in a different way of living. But here we've just changed so much. Like a drone is normal for us. It's nothing.
Yeah, 100%. Like you see a drone and you're like, meh.
Yeah,
like, you become
exactly.
So accustomed to it. But like it's like no, realize what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Dude, it's so crazy. So I was at a all right, let's just delve into tech now because I think it's just interesting because it's related. We were at this like brunch thing and we were talking about Asia. So the people I was with, they'd never been to Asia. And I was like, and it actually dovetails into the post I like shared with that girl who was like, Asia's living in the future, America's just behind. So like it showed the technology difference. And I was like, no, that's where we should be. That's what the vlogger said too. She was like, that's where we should be. We're just lagging behind in terms of like healthcare, equality for all that stuff, right? And the person I was with had never been to Asia. And then I was like, we were trying to describe it, and I was like, it's wild when you go because you come back here and you look at everything, you're like, oh, this is archaic, bro. Like, why are we doing it this way? Like these brick and mortar things that are like so, like, I was also going around downtown Toronto as well, and I was like, dude, it's so old. It's like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? And like the new developments are like more hyper modern. I'm like, I'm cooler with that. Like, why would I want to live in a 2-story, what do you call that? Like a townhouse
Yeah.
that's like super old, has not been updated. The wood is probably rotting away, but like you want that feeling of like, oh, I'm an old school Torontonian. Like it's a vibe downtown. You know, when you go like
Hmm.
downtown Toronto, it's like a vibe where everyone's like trying to be old school. You know, like
Yeah, yeah.
they
Okay.
want to be
Sure,
like
sure, sure.
old, like campery. You know, like oh, we're all wearing our flannels with our like our overalls and our like Arc'teryx hats. You know what I mean? Like they're all trying to be
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know
Hmm.
what I mean, right? That
Hmm.
kind of vibe where it's like we even went to a store where it's like they're selling like vintage old
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
clothes,
Right.
and everybody's walking around in those vintage old clothes. You know, like thrift stores too. They're all like people are trying to go to thrift stores and like, oh, I'm so like hip because I'm like in the past. I'm like, why would you want to be in the past, bro? The future's way cooler.
Hmm.
Like it's better to be now, you know? And so I was explaining like the technology, and then the person was like, "Oh, I never wanted to get that way," and I was like, "Why?" They're
Right.
like, "Oh God, like what they're gonna switch my server out with a robot?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's cool. I
Hmm.
don't have to talk to you. I don't have to tip you, bro. You're like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like." You will not forget my order. You will bring my order on time.
Yeah,
It'll be
yeah, yeah,
efficient.
yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, like why are we dealing with like, okay, very simple. So like let's say it rains and like the over cover, the cover for where we were eating, it was just like wood. So you know that if it rained, like it'll still leak on top. So I'm sure in Asia they've come up with a different way to like maybe like put some saran wrap on the outside and maybe like make it a different material instead of wood. It's kind of like that, you know. It's like not saying that they do that, but it's like
Hmm.
that level. It's like why would you want the rickety old thing when this thing's way cooler and better,
Yeah. Hmm.
you know? And I was thinking like that's just the vibe of Toronto, down.
Hmm.
Like if you go, you know what I'm saying?
Sure, sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like if you go out into like different parts where they're really trying to just Asian parts really. Like Asian parts are really trying to like expand where we are going technologically that it's like why would we settle for crappiness?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like what like why would I use two sticks to make a fire when I have a lighter?
Yeah. Right.
Right? But they're thinking like, no, but the two sticks, bro. Like we gotta keep it vintage. We gotta keep it like that. I'm not part of that technology. That technological movement's not cool to me. And you're like, that's cool. I have a lighter, so I'm just gonna light this fire. Good luck with your stick burning
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah. Right.
You know?
Hmm.
Like, do you see that too? Or like that's just me? Or like
Uh,
what's the appeal? I don't know. Like
I think
being
it's just,
anti tech.
I think it's just comfort. That what they're used to.
Oh, like oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah. But then it's like hypocritical
But
because
I
you go
think
home and you're like,
it can be
yeah,
cultural, right? Like I don't know if the focus around you is always uh, comfort, something that you're used to, then you find that anything new is
yeah,
scary, right? But I don't think.
totally.
But if you come from a part where you love technology, you see the improvements, you see how it helps in your life. I think then
Yeah,
for us, any kind of new technology is pretty cool, right? Like we
right,
want
right,
that change. Yeah.
right. And like it's funny too because they'll be like oh let me just stream this on my 5G Wi-Fi signal from my cell phone using the
But like
Netflix app. I'm
sometimes,
like those are tech, bro.
yeah,
Like
I
what
was
are you
about to say,
talking about?
I was
Like
about to say,
what?
like, do they want to go back to going to
Blockbuster,
Blockbuster, or do they
right?
want,
Like
or
what?
do you like what we have today with Netflix and stuff like
Makes
that?
no sense. Like it's you know the best person for this, and I'm like on this like total train right now where I'm just listening to like all of his stuff because he was in the future the whole time. Will I am. It was with the FYI app that I was like, oh, this is really intriguing. And then you go listen to like his stuff, even the music. When I first heard the music, I didn't think it was music when I was a kid. I never liked Black Eyed Peas because I'm like, oh, they're not musicians. Because I thought like musicians were like guitar players, drummers, stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're like, but they were very electronic, and their sound was very like
I like
if you
them.
played it,
Yeah.
but if you played their music now, you'd be like, oh yeah, this fits.
Yeah.
But their music was back then, so I was like, oh, why is it so electronic-y and
Mm-hmm.
like this doesn't sound like music, it doesn't sound like a sound, you know? And one of their best lines was, "You're so 2000 and no,
Oh
I'm
yeah,
so
yeah,
2008. You're so 2000 and late."
yeah.
Right? And now I'm just using that like, "Oh, you're just 2000 late, bro." Like that is where these people are like coming from. It's like you just don't see like the truth, like the truth. Like
The
this
vision.
is way
Yeah.
better, bro.
Yeah.
The vision. Thank you. Yeah. And yeah, it's weird because it's like, okay, so the best person to listen to for this stuff is Will I Am, because he said that it's not the technology being evil, it's our perception of the technology.
Hmm.
So we've watched movies like Terminator, we've watched movies like Transcendence, we've watched movies like, or like shows even like Black Mirror, Westworld, all these dystopian future things. And he was like, yes, that's the painting that like Hollywood is giving us.
Hmm.
But why don't you look at Star Wars?
Yeah.
How they're integrating technology in a way better way. He's like, look to the things that inspire and elevate you. Don't look at these negative things.
Hmm.
And I was like, yeah, that's true, bro. Like, we could have Star Wars or we could have Terminator. It really depends. Like, if you're all focusing on Terminator, well, of course, you're going to get Terminator,
Hmm.
you know? But, and that's why the person who was with like, oh, I hope it's not like this in the future with like, my server's a robot now. I'm like, you think that server wants to do that job, bro? Like,
Yeah. But maybe there's something to do with like fear has something more, like
it's fear stronger.
yeah, fear is stronger,
In
right?
the mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, always. That's
Yeah.
marketing tactic.
Yeah.
Fear
So
sells.
I think that's why
Right.
we don't think about Star Wars or like we
Right.
don't look at the good stuff, how they're using technology. No, we just only know the fear because that's the stronger emotion, stronger connection. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that he said was, as well, because like the interviewer was like, "Is this just gonna take my job, right? Or
Mhm.
like it's just gonna like change my way of living?" And he's like, "No, AI and technology is an amplifier. It's not a. It's not a. It's not like something that's gonna like disrupt you and just change your whole way of life. Think of it like a speaker. It just makes the sound better. You know, like you can play music for like 10 people, or you can record that music and then give that music out to like 10,000 people, and then 10,000 people get to hear it whenever they want. You know what I'm saying? It's like it didn't change the essence of what you're doing. It's amplifying your ability to do what you're doing.
Mhm.
Do you get what I'm saying?
No, I get you. Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. And I was like, that's a great analogy. That wasn't the exact analogy. I'm like trying to think of a similar one to what he said. But he's like, yeah, it's just like think of technology like an amplification. Don't think of it like this thing that's going to ruin our lives. And then the interviewer, is like, oh, what about the atomic bomb and like, etc. And he's like, yeah, but that was human made choices though. Like we didn't have to drop the atomic bomb. We chose to drop the atomic bomb.
Mhm.
The technology was there. So how are you going to use it? You could use AI, sure, as a way to like, control the masses,
Yeah.
or you can enhance my, I don't know, cognitive ability, my answering of questions, all that stuff.
Mhm.
So I think, yeah, that's where I'm optimistic. But I couldn't go into this whole discussion with them. I was just like,
Yeah.
you're missing the point, but we're just gonna leave it alone,
True.
because most people don't see it. But then it's like we don't see our own hypocrisies. It's like, yeah, you say
Mhm.
that, but you like your Netflix, right? You like your 5G, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
We get mad when it's not working as fast, right?
Yeah, you're like, but I thought that's what you wanted. I thought you didn't want tech. You know what I mean? Like, let's go back to the old ways.
Yeah.
But I feel like as well with the
But we forget
the
too,
old,
though. I think we forget
yeah.
what the old was.
What do you mean?
We forget what
Yeah, we do.
because we gradually go through it, right? We forgot.
Exactly. That's why the movie was so like,
Yeah.
whoa, 2008 when this came out. Like, what are you talking about? It seemed like a whole different world.
Yeah.
Like, you guys don't have smartphones? Wait, you don't have GPS? Like, why are you looking at a map? What are we
Mhm.
talking about here? But imagine like, so we saw that in 2008. But imagine like life before the internet. But imagine the kids now that like I have some coworkers that have children and they're like, they have no idea what a Blockbuster is, and I had to explain to them what it
Mhm.
was. They're like, why would you go to a place? Why don't you download it? They're like, no, but there was no download at the time. You had to like,
Yep.
it's like, Who wants to go back to that? Why are you hungering for, like, so when we went to the clothing shop, everything's overpriced and they're all like vintage, right? So it's like these like old school um like dress shoes, like slacks that are like dress pants. And I was like, why would I buy this and try and stay with like this archaic design? Why don't I go to a futurist store and buy some like pants with pockets that don't, when they get wet, they don't actually
Mm-hmm.
um
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
seep through. Like that's way better. You know what? Like who cares about like this cotton dress shirt? Like I'd rather have a shirt that doesn't absorb water.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah.
And then actually, it was so funny. So case in point, um, Tara. Tara and I were like walking in this thing, and she made fun of me for my shoes before. She's like, "You paid $200 for these On Runnings?" I'm like, "Yeah, because they're the best support, waterproof." So there was this puddle. She's wearing Birkenstocks, so her feet are open, and I was like, "All right, I'll carry you across." So I piggybacked her across, and then I was like, "She's like, oh, do your feet get wet?" I'm like, "No, they're waterproof." I'm like, "So why?" Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
why would I not buy the waterproof thing, bro? It's like it's just tax way better,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But we don't see it. We don't see it because it's so gradual,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah. Yeah.
know?
Exactly. Yeah.
And then the other people we were with, they walked through the water because, like, I'm not going to piggyback all of them, bro. So, like, they walked through it and they were wearing regular sneakers. You know what the person said? "Don't worry, I'll just throw them in the wash when I get home." You know what I said? "I don't even need to throw them in the wash, bro. They're still dry."
Yeah.
Like, should have bought the On Runnings. Or like Vessies.
Yeah. I don't know
There's
which
so
one.
many
Yeah,
shoes
but
like that
yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah. There's so many.
You
Yeah.
know, there's even a new one at Yorkdale just opened up, and I was walking by, and it's like all of our shoes are waterproof and like whatever. And I was like, oh, dude, that's the move,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? Like, dude, it's crazy. I don't know, just seeing the difference now of like, because I don't spend that much time with people. So I like I'm in this world like even they like came over and they saw my space and like, whoa, this is intense.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, but they love, they're like, oh, this is cool though, you know. And it's like, yeah, this is the future, bro. Like,
Yeah.
why are we in the past? And,
Right.
and they're like, oh, how'd you wall mount it? I'm like, wall mounting is 2024. If you want your TV back up, you know what I mean? It's like this is the beautiful future you could have,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Sure. Yeah.
I just think it's weird that we don't all see it because we're like
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
driven by
I,
media.
are different influences. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah. Influences. But like, what are you pining for? I just don't get it. Like, I don't like camping. I really don't like camping. Putting that on the record.
True. Yeah.
It's like, bro, why are we? We made houses for a reason, bro.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Yeah, I think even like professionally, because we're if you know what it is that I do, we try and like diversify the outdoors by bringing like minorities or like global majorities out into Canadian wilderness, right? And it was a little difficult. Like even in the beginning, I was trying to figure out like what's the marketing position for it, and I was like, a lot of people that are like first generation, they don't really want to like they left that to come here
Mm-hmm.
for modernity.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, why am I going to sleep on the ground outside? I could have done that back home.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like that was like a weird that was a weird disconnect. Some people do like it, like some people do like the nature aspect of it, but like I don't know, it's so unappealing to me to be out in the wilderness with spiders as I'm sleeping and like
Yeah. That's not for me.
you know, right? Where am I gonna cook?
Sure. Yeah.
What am I
Yeah.
gonna unless we like go out in like a trailer van, I'm like, that's cool, but we just brought tech to the outdoors. Like I didn't really,
Mm-hmm.
you know, yeah, yeah. Anyways, I just thought that was weird. Anything else that you want to bring up about this disconnect between the future and the people that are blind to the future? It's like, yeah,
No. Yeah, I agree with that. But it's also like when you experience certain technology, like you try some other technology, it's like, oh, why is this not?
Mm.
Why don't they have this yet?
Yes,
Right?
this is a good point.
like those are things that annoy me too. But like outside of technology, even like packaging, we still do the same old package. Like I got used to Apple's design of packaging. It's like, oh, this is so easy to open and get to your device. And it's like other ones are like the plastic sheet that are just
Yeah,
like.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, oh, how do you
Totally.
open this thing? This thing is like the worst design in the world. Why aren't we changing this?
Yeah, yeah, facts, facts. That's actually interesting that you said that. Like the once you've tried other tech, maybe that's what it is though. Because I've been to Asia, it's like their like conception of like what
Hmm.
tech is. They both hadn't gone to Asia, so like they're thinking Terminator, but I'm thinking convenience.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah. They just got to
like
experience that. They just got.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then they're like, oh, dude, this is way better. I'm like, yeah, it's way better.
Mhm.
You know, like when you go to a an all you can eat sushi spot and you use an iPad and then the food comes to you, that's better than being like we went to Earl's. Oh no, I shouldn't have said Earl's. Whatever. Sorry, branding. Sorry, Earl's. You messed up. Okay. So I went to Earl's with my sister and we ordered two items and she got it wrong both times. I'm like, if you were a robot, we would not have this problem.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and then she kind of made it like it was my fault because she misheard. And I'm like, it's okay, we'll eat it. She's like, no, if you don't want to eat it. I'm like, okay, I don't want to eat it.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
like, it's like, bro, you misheard me,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
But if I just had the iPad, click, 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 okay.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And then if it comes wrong, you're like, damn, that's on me for clicking wrong.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
true. Yeah, yeah, but I think those are the things that why we changed over to the iPad, where it's like, yeah, I can
Yeah.
just select. You don't have to fill out the thing, and that was more wasteful, actually, right?
Ah, it was. There's, sorry, I think it's going off. Remember when McDonald's got the boards,
Yeah,
the touch boards?
yeah.
So there's also that in bubble tea shops too. And it's like that when me and my sister went in, you can choose the counter
Mm-hmm.
or you can choose the bubble tea line,
Yeah,
like the robot bubble tea
yeah, yeah, yeah.
board.
The machine.
So
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Order. Yeah.
And this is in Pickering. So we go in and there's like a long lineup at the front. So we're like, okay. So we went to the machine and we got our bubble tea ahead of everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's the past. This is the future, bro. Like efficiency.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, why did like 10 people wait to like put in the order? You could have just clicked it
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
then got your order right away,
Sure.
you know?
Yeah.
And then if you're like, man, this line's so long, I'm going to leave. You know, it's like, yeah, because that's the past, bro. The
Mm-hmm.
future is efficiency.
Yeah.
Like, just put in yourself.
Mhm.
Or like, even we were walking Athena and Tara doesn't usually get Starbucks, but this day she was like, oh, let me get like a little Starbucks thing. And then I was like, okay, like just go in, I'll wait with Athena. And she's like, wait, well, I'll just order my app. And I'm like, oh, right.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just like ordered the app, walked in. I'm like, all right, cool, we're good. So it's like, why? Why do you pine for this old school? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
tech
yeah,
is
yeah.
obviously better, bro.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah. I
it
like
just made no sense to me.
like ever since I think the pandemic, that's where it changed too. Like even with McDonald's,
Mm,
right? You can just order
yeah,
and you can just say, oh, you just either you go through the drive-through to pick it up, or wait at the curbside and it'll come bring it to you. It's like
curbside, yeah, yeah,
it's so much
true.
more. Just okay, yeah, I just want this. You can change up your ingredients or adjust all that
Yeah.
stuff, and then it just comes to you.
Instead of going at the counter, remember when you're like, I'd like a chicken burger dressed as a mac. They're like, what?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, just put the mac sauce on there, two pickles.
yeah.
Like, oh, I can't hear you. Say it again. You're like, oh man,
Yeah,
damn.
that's true too. Yeah, that's what I don't. I didn't
You know what
like
I mean?
that whole. That was happening so many times at the takeout line or the
Dude,
drive-through
yeah,
line.
for real.
Yeah,
I went to Tim Hortons during my break for work, and I was at the drive-through, and then I was like, "Yeah, I'll have these two cookies, blah blah blah." And then she gave me like the thing with one cookie missing, and I was like, "Oh, I asked for the other cookie," and she's like, "Oh, we ran out of those cookies." I'm like, "But did you charge me for the other cookie?" And she's like, "No, I didn't even hear you said that." I was like, "Oh man, so now what am I do?
right.
Wait again for like
Yeah.
So now you're just like walking away with an order that you're like, ah,
See,
all right.
yeah, exactly.
Tech could have fixed that, bro, if we just ordered ahead.
Yeah.
Movie tickets.
Mm-hmm.
This is so funny. This podcast is just like reminiscing about why do people think that the old way is the good way? It's like the future's better, bro.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about the movie tickets too, right? It's like, oh, the movie's sold out. Like when you get there,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
now you can
True.
see how much, or like you can select your seats. You can see how many people
Select
are
your
going.
seats, bro. No, okay, but this is all right. But this is the thing. This is the thing. Okay, I just don't get it. So like the thing about the girl who I posted where she was like Asia's living how we should be living. We're living in the past. Because people are like, that's a good reframe though. Because most people are like, oh, Asia's in the future. I'm like, no, Asia's the current. We are in the past, right? It's not that we're striving to be that. It's like we're trying to catch up to what's current, right? And the thing you said about the movie theaters, I had seen that when I first went to. No, we didn't go to the movie theater when I was in high school, but when I stayed in Hong Kong for that summer, and I like lived there, I was like, dude, the tech is like crazy. So that seat picking was all over Asia, Thailand, Hong Kong. You could do that already. And I was like, why wouldn't they just do this here?
Right.
Like, you remember before you'd go to the movie theater and you'd have to fight for your seats.
Yeah.
I hope I go early so that I can get a good seat.
Yeah.
Right. But now they show you like the display. They're like, these are all the seats. Pick which one you want. I'm like, that's like an old Asian method. Like they were already
there's nothing
doing
wrong
that.
with exactly. There's nothing wrong with taking other ones, good technology that would work here. Yeah, well,
But the thing is that what the person brought up in the this is actually a good question to ask, like for us to mull over. But she said in the video, it's like, where's our money going in America and I guess North America? It's like, this is where you could be with the tech, but we're so focused on like fixing our roads. I don't know, some like like where does our money go for these taxes? Like, why don't we develop ourselves in the manner of them? Why do we have to like wait 10 years to get the basic technology they already have?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I actually don't know why. Is it because like their systems set up better?
It's all about systems. There's different things to it, right? There's systems. America's such a bigger country than some of the Asian countries.
Asia, yeah.
Like you have small areas to work with, right? Your economy could be very big, but if your country is a smaller country, that means you can spend more money in there, right? If your country is such a bigger country, and even your economy could be big, but your country is so much more bigger, you can't spread that money across, right?
You just solved it. Thank you for that. Yeah, no, but actually, that actually logically makes the most sense. It's like, because you're like, why is America living in the past? It's like, well, it's so much bigger. How do you spread the resources across a huge landmass?
Yeah,
but they are literally tiny island.
But then it's like, exactly, yeah, and it's also like before America was that. Like, you've never seen tall buildings, right? New York had all these things, right? So it's like, but then because of America, from technology, that other countries also were able to grow as their economies.
Yes.
And because they have smaller spaces, and they're like
freaking genius, bro. That's like actually so accurate.
How things are designed, right? Even how the cities are designed. Cities are designed to be walkable, to be using transit, right? You can't go in Japan, you can't buy a car, right? Even Singapore, you can't buy a car. It's super expensive, right? That you have to use transit. So their focus was that. That's how they were designed. But they're also a smaller country to work with.
Yeah, right? That's genius. Actually, you're so right, because like when I was there the first time, I was like, where are all the cars? Like there were cars, but it was like there was like mostly taxis and like just high end vehicles.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, you guys don't like we were transiting to work, and they're like, no, the roads are for the really, really, really rich people.
Yeah.
Like regular people don't own cars because it's like, where are you gonna put the car? You also like you're living in an apartment. You know, you're not actually like, where's the garage for it?
Yeah, I even looked into like I was planning, still planning on Japan, but it's like just getting an idea how to travel and stuff. And they're like, if you,
dude, I'm telling you,
don't
South
take
Korea,
a taxi. Yeah,
South Korea better than Japan, bro. I'm telling you. Like, obviously you should go to Japan because everyone wants to go to Japan, but I really want to see South Korea.
The other thing I'm thinking about is like I seen some kind of cruises where they go from city to city. So you'll go from South Korea to Japan and other parts of Japan too. So like that's another idea is possible.
I think Japan, honestly, like it might have like gotten better, but
it depends where you go to. Even in Japan, they're trying to get people not to go to Tokyo because there's too many people. They want people to go to see other places. So there's some things that I do want to see that people don't generally go to.
For sure. Those places are... So like when we went to Tokyo before, technically it was a while ago. So like there was no English and we were like so lost. But when they were like, "This is the future," I was like, "No, Hong Kong's better than Japan, bro." But you make a lot of sense because it's just a small city. Like Hong Kong's technically like a city country.
Hmm.
Like the whole thing's just a city.
Right.
And like when you went to like Japan, it was like more spread out. So you're like you get pockets of tech, but even the tech wasn't as great. But you're right about what you said. If it's a small area, you can bundle the resources to make that city better. And what is it if not just hyper amplifying cities?
Hmm.
Because that's where people are, right? So just make it better and better and better. Whereas like if you look at Toronto, we don't do that. When I was going through the core of Toronto yesterday, and I was like explaining, like I was listening to this person explain Toronto, like, oh my god, this is Toronto. I'm like, this is a part of Toronto, and I was trying to say like, no, there are pockets that are like
Hmm.
totally different. You know, like if I brought you to like Pacific Mall, you'd be like, this is not Toronto. Well, technically it's not, it's Markham, but like, you know what I'm trying to say? It's like what we think of as Toronto. It's like that is a very like old school view of Toronto. When I think of Toronto, I think of the whole Toronto. So I think of like Peel. I'm like the architecture in Peel's pretty impressive. Like I
Hmm.
went to go pick up something from like Facebook Marketplace and I saw like the building. I was like, this is hyper modern, bro. It's like a spiral, you know, and
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
just the way it was built. I was like, that's really cool. But you don't see that in downtown Toronto. You go to downtown Toronto, you see old buildings, and I'm like, this is not Toronto.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is like old Toronto, bro. Like we need
Yeah.
to expand
Well, yeah,
past
that's
this,
the
you
thing.
know?
Wherever new cities are born, in a way, right? So that's we're gonna
Yeah.
build newer structures
Yeah.
or
And,
latest
and when we were
structures. Hmm.
totally. And we were walking around our area, and I was like, "Oh, see that building that kind of looks like a spaceship?" I was sending you photos too, the one that they're building up
Yeah,
in
yeah,
front
yeah.
of us. Like, but you're not going to see that in downtown Toronto. Like this spaceship architecture thing is new,
Hmm.
you know. So it's like don't think that all of Toronto's like that.
Hmm.
Like that. That's why I say that Toronto's probably the best city of experience because you can really go to different pockets of like styles. You know,
Yeah.
don't like really. I think Toronto, even if you look at the 401, Toronto is like downtown Toronto is not even on the 401. And I
Hmm.
consider
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. Right.
Toronto the 401. Like if you can get to it through like some aspect of the 401, which is the main freeway if you're listening to America, it's like the
Sure.
I-95, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um
Something.
it's like yeah, right. I heard the I-95 goes across America, so I'll just use that one. But if you look at it like adjacent parts of Toronto, don't look at like the main like don't look at the where the CN Tower is. Like you can
So
you
you can
can
call
really
that, yeah, I guess
diversify
like
what you
the downtown core. That's what that
yeah.
is. And
But I call it like the old way. Like it's so old every time I go down. And they're
sure.
like walking around like, oh my god, this is beautiful. This is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. These like squish townhouses. And I'm like, do you want to see some cool? And then we drove past our area and like they're like, what? These houses are huge. They're like different styles. I'm like, yeah, bro. Like
Hmm.
they're not all like cramped
Yeah,
townhouses,
yeah,
just
yeah.
like or Toronto is,
Right.
you know. Have you ever been to I think I don't know if we've driven by it, but like Drake's house in the bridle path?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, so if you look at those houses too, they're like giant mansions,
Hmm.
right? And it's like, yeah, this is also a part of Toronto. So if you think of Toronto as like this like Queen West, you know, like the hipster
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Toronto.
yeah.
That's
Right.
what it is really though. It's the hipster Toronto.
Hmm.
Where like everybody's trying to be like old school but like innovative.
Maybe
It's
it's
like
just
that's not
yeah,
really
yeah, yeah, yeah. Right, right, right. Maybe it's because the structures are so old. It gives you that
yeah.
mental focus to be in that direction. I guess I don't know.
Could be. No, could be
Right.
though. Could be because like
Hmm.
it could be actually because it's like why would you if that's all you see, that's all you'll be thinking about making.
Yeah, maybe.
And again, why travel is so important because if you go to these different countries, you're like, bro, why am I living in the past?
Hmm.
Yeah. But you really hit the nail on the head when you said like you have to experience the tech to understand the deficit in your tech.
Hmm.
Because like
Yeah, yeah,
when you see an advanced like transit system, like you know, Toronto just got it's a few years now, but they just got like the it's only on line one too. It's like it'll show you what stop you're at, and it's just one long tube.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's like they literally took that from Hong Kong. Because I was in the Chamber of Commerce meeting, and they're like, "Yeah, we're meeting these deals with like Toronto. Like, there's a huge like a partnership, economic partnership between Canada and Hong Kong at the time. Not anymore, I guess, because of like the Chinese takeover. But when I saw this long tube with the lights showing you your stop, that was again old tech that I saw in Hong Kong like years ago. And I was like, man, you should really implement this in Toronto because we're like lacking our transit system's terrible, right?
Right.
And then they're like, oh, this new innovative line 1, this long tube. And people are like, oh my God, this is the future. It's like, no, this is like 10 years ago when they had this, bro. It's like we just don't. But again, to your point, it's because the landmass is so big. Where are you going to put the resources?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you have to equally think about the small towns as much as the
Yeah,
cities.
exactly. Yeah, because even like the money that Toronto makes, it doesn't necessarily all the money goes back to Toronto. They have to spread
Exactly right.
across
Yeah.
Canada, and there's only what big cities are Toronto and Vancouver, really.
Yes, dude. Yeah.
Right. Outside of that, everybody else needs help because of Toronto and Vancouver, right?
Facts. Outside of those cities, like where's the economic boom?
Exactly.
Like literally nowhere. Like Calgary, maybe. And that's another one, but it's like still on the rise.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not really.
It's not the same. It's not the same.
Yeah, it's not the same. It's like you think of like Toronto and Vancouver. Calgary's kind of on the rise, but you're right. It's the two main. But it's funny though, because you said like Vancouver and Toronto. And when me and Wob did the video shoot, we had so much free time, but I didn't realize. So we're like, okay, let's just see as much as we can. We ended up seeing all of Vancouver, and we're like, oh, there's nothing to do here, right? That's why I was like, you don't need to go. Like Toronto is the best city in Canada, hands down. And if they say not, you're lying, bro. You are lying. Show me a better city than this. You're lying. I'll move there if I've seen it. But so it's funny because one of the visitors is from Vancouver, and they were like, oh, our city's crap. And when they said it, I was like, thank you. Like, I thought it was the only one, but I didn't want to be rude because I'm not actually from there. So, like, the fact that you're saying it, they're like, yeah, man, my city sucks. It's like so small and like there's nothing to do. And I'm like, okay, cool. I wasn't the only one because, like, I thought it was like, oh, you're just being rude,
Yeah,
you know? But it's like, no, they think it too, bro.
Yeah.
Like, they see it.
Mm-hmm.
There's way more to do in Toronto. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, that's something I will definitely take away from the podcast that I didn't think about. Like that is 100% the reason. It's like why else are you in the future? Because you can devote those resources to that small space.
Yeah, efficiently too. Yeah, we're a big landmass. So
yeah, totally. Okay. Just moving on from that. You know what's interesting? I was like, well, it's kind of related to tech. I finished that Life 3.0 book. It's interesting because they were saying that Life 1.0 is you're evolving your hardware and your software, your body and your mind, right? Like, so Life 1.0, the universe was starting on our planet, or like life was starting on our planet, and we were watching the evolution of the mind and the body. Okay, Life 2.0 is the evolution of the body and the design. No, sorry, the evolution of the mind still, but the designing of the body. So we started to add like pacemakers and like all that stuff, right? So Life 3.0, which is where we're headed, is the designing. So there's no more evolution. It's the designing of the body and the mind. And what that means is like consciousness, like, AI consciousness. Like we are developing these AI tools to enhance our consciousness.
Yeah.
Right. Like I was saying, like the 2008, I was like, oh, you guys are archaic, bro. Like I can pull up an app or the Google and just like find out the information, and that's where we're headed. And I thought it was interesting because it's like we've kind of left evolution in favor of like self design. Like we've become our own god, essentially.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like it's a tricky future. The end of the book was basically about we get to choose how it's like Will.i.am. We choose how we want to use the tech. So like choose wisely, but that wasn't the whole point of the thing. That was just the main takeaway that I want to share. But it's funny because it was like New York Times bestseller, so that's why I bought it. But the book itself was not very good. Like that was the only really good takeaway. But it's weird because like you see New York Times bestseller, so you're like, I'm gonna gravitate towards that. I'm gonna buy it. But like the hustle is, it just means that it sold a lot of books. So you had a good marketing team, or like you bought your own books, maybe. You know what I'm saying?
Is that what New York Times bestseller is? Is based on just sales?
Sales, yeah, bestseller, yeah. So because I finished the book and I was like, man, this book is trash. And then
Mm.
Tara was like, oh, Stassi from this reality TV show, her book is a New York Times bestseller. And I'm like, it can't be that good, bro. It's most likely
Right. Okay.
because
So they're not
somebody bought
really.
the book.
So it's just saying that it's like kind of like hitting that. Uh, the 100 top 100 billboards, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's not a good song. It just hit the top 100.
Yeah.
A lot of people are listening to it.
Right.
You know, They-
So, but there must be
it's
something else
yeah.
for books for awards wise, right? Like there are good books, like how Oscars are
No,
there in a way.
I have no idea. I just realized like through, but it's funny because I was like, I should have known this as a marketer because I bought the book only because it was like it's about the future. I was like New York Times bestseller. I'm like, okay, you must have some really good takeaways.
Mm-hmm.
But like, no, like the best ones I've found book wise are recommendations from other people. Like I'll listen to podcasts, like Joe Rogan's podcast, and they'll be like, oh, this book came out and was really good, and I'll read it like, okay, that's a good book. But like,
Right.
they need a way to like talk about quality, like you said, because yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But like Drake, Taylor Swift, like when they're in the top 100, like the most played, that also includes like, because you're just counting the streams, right? So that includes like when you're at the mall and they're just playing that, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying? So it's like,
Right.
are we as an individual listening, or did you make a commercial agreement with this place? Like, because like let's say Drake owns a bunch of stores in Toronto. Do you have a partnership with Drake to only play his music, and that gets him up onto the billboard? There's all these like weird tactics that are being used, and it's not actually about the quality of a thing. It's more about like the marketability of a thing. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. But there's different ways of looking at it. Like I don't look at the billboards,
Mm.
right? You'll see like in Apple.
But people love it though. They'll like,
No,
oh,
yeah. But
okay.
like I don't know. I get that's fine. Yeah, that world still exists. But like, I'll like the Kendrick one was on top on Apple Music because that was the one that was
yeah.
being played a lot, right? On Apple
Yeah.
Music. So that one is from people listening or downloading. Or
Right.
whatever.
But that was also because people wanted to hear the beef though.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
like
yeah,
it was
yeah.
also,
Sure.
you know what I mean? So it's
Sure.
like,
Yeah, that's why it's up there.
it's tied into marketing.
Yeah.
Like if Kendrick had dropped that on its own, would it have made it to the top?
Yeah. I understand that. Yeah, because there's things going around it. I know. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is like accurately summed up from Tupac. So this interview,
Mhm.
they're like, "Are you Tupac? This like interviewer was like, Tupac, you haven't sold. This person sold more records than you. Do you care?" And he's like, "Crack sells a lot too, but it doesn't mean it's good for you." And I was like, "Damn, that's true."
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just funny. It's just interesting to think about. It's like our whole world really is run around marketing of these ideas. Like, can I make you believe this one thing?
Sure. Yeah.
Actually, it ties into like why that person believed that we're like headed towards a Terminator future if we believe in tech. It's like, no, it's just what are your influences? Star Wars or Terminator?
Yeah. Or Star Trek. Yeah. Star Trek.
Or Star Trek, yeah.
I mean, those
Actually,
are
I didn't really.
Star
yeah,
Trek
oh,
are
yeah.
the influences for Steve Wozniak and these guys. Those are the guys that were in technology, right?
Right. Like the Siri of the what was that called? The what do you say in Star Computer?
Yeah.
Computer calculate blah blah blah.
Yeah,
I was like, yeah.
Or like
they
the
do that.
iPad, some iPad type screens that were there too.
Yeah, so look to the beautiful example, not like the scary one, Yeah. Anyways, so what time are we at?
52.
Oh, okay. Oh wow. All right. Okay, I'll jump into this one because the next biggest one. We'll see what time we are at. Have you ever watched Breaking Bad?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you get into it? Did you finish it or like?
Yeah, I finished it.
You finished Breaking Bad. Okay. What was your impression of Breaking Bad? Do you like it?
I liked it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And do you remember what the storyline was?
Yeah.
Okay. Wait, what was the storyline?
Like a science teacher that's got cancer and in order to get money, makes crystal meth.
Yeah. Okay. So we were really into it. We're like, oh, this is pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And then it hit us halfway through, like the third episode, and we just stopped watching because it became so depressing. Get ready for this.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, can you say the storyline one more time? So what's the storyline?
Oh yeah, because in order to make more money, and he also doesn't have like money for healthcare that he has to
That's
sell.
that's the whole premise of the show, bro. This guy wasn't like, oh man, I love Pablo Escobar. Oh man, I really want the money. Oh, I
No.
really want to be balling out. No, he wanted to pay for his medical bills, bro.
Hmm.
Let that sink in. Like this dude turned to a life of crime because he wouldn't let himself die because his wife was like, oh, you should go for the treatment. How are we gonna pay for the treatment? Don't worry, you can get a loan. Blah blah blah. We can't pay back the loan.
Hmm.
Okay, I'm just gonna sell crystal meth. So this show was not actually about like being a cool drug dealer. It was about how sad and broken the medical system is.
Hmm.
And then we Googled like why most people go into debt, and one of the main reasons is healthcare. They
Yeah.
can't pay medical bills. And then Tara sent me this one video of like it was like a reel, and this person was like looking at my $145,000 medical bill even after the doctor said that they couldn't save my child.
Hmm.
Bro, that's messed up. And then like people here when we go to America, like they're like, wait, you just get cancer treatment for free? Wait, you just get that operation for free? Wait, and they're like, they're so mind blown by it. And it's like, I didn't realize your perspective until watching Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
How desperate it is for you to pay for medical things
Hmm.
that we take for granted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh, let me just see what my blood test is. Just go over there. You know,
Hmm.
free. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like for them, it's like $500. I also got to pay for like the doctor or whatever. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything you want to add on to that before I give you my craziest example?
Add on to the show is good though.
Like
But
that
anyways,
concept.
yeah. 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 Oh.
Yeah, I know, but I can't watch. It just hurt my soul when I realized, like, oh, you just need money for the medical bill. It's like the dude on Christmas. Remember, me and my sister were at Shoppers on Christmas, and then like somebody ran out with a whole cart, and we're like, oh, like he stole like something, and we look over, and he was stealing chocolate, like the whole thing. He like click, 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 and then when it
Mm.
came time to pay, he just grabbed the thing and ran out of there.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, well, what did he buy?
Yeah.
Like, was it a TV or something? No, chocolate. And you're like, dude, that's sad. You know, I'll buy that chocolate for you.
Hmm.
But anyways, so like that's why I couldn't watch the show. So okay, cue into the craziest example, and this is the biggest mind shift, and it only happened by watching Breaking Bad. So for the longest time, I thought people in Montana were a little off. Okay.
Okay.
The reason why, right? Because it's like, oh, you're mountain people, like maybe that's why you're off. Like, oh, there's something weird about you guys, right? But that all started when so not everyone knows the story, but I'm just gonna say it on the podcast. Surprise. So I was watching these people argue in Montana,
Hmm.
and I was like, oh, that's interesting. They're like get into a heated debate, and then the girl slapped the drink out of the dude's hand, and it hit me in the face, right? And that's how I got this scar over my eyebrow.
Hmm.
Thankfully, I didn't go blind. That'd been crazy, but it hit me, and then I was like, oh, dude, what? Like I was like, I was shocked. It didn't hurt, and then I felt like something like liquid, and I touched my face. I'm like, oh, dude, it's blood. So I
Hmm.
went to the bathroom, and I had this huge gash, right? And I was like, oh, what am I gonna do about this? So I go outside, and like it became this huge, like, oh, look, you made him bleed, whatever. And then everyone in the bar was like, oh, let me help you. And there's one dude, he's like, don't worry, I was a missionary before, and I can stitch that up for you. And I was like, you're crazy.
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
I'm going to let you burn a needle and stitch me up on the spot. You can go to hell. And that's why I was like, oh, Montana people are a little weird,
Hmm.
right? Watching Breaking Bad, he was trying to save me money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bro, it didn't but it didn't even register to you until you were like, yeah, that's true, actually. Bro, how crazy is that? Like, look at that small example of a mind shift. Like, the way you interact with your life is how you're seeing the world. Like, he was like, oh, medical bills, da, 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 like, whatever. And everyone there was like, oh, and it explains why the girl was so scared now. I think she thought I was going to, like, make her pay for my medical bills.
You could, yeah, you could sue people for that, yeah.
Exact, and that's what we Googled too. Yeah, suing people for medical bills is
Mhm.
another reason why people get into like
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
people in like America, like, just sue them, just sue them.
Hmm.
Why is that a thing? Because like people get hurt all the time. It's like, who's gonna pay for this?
Yeah.
You know. But I hate needles, so I was like, let me just get like two bandages and like hold it together,
Yeah.
and that's why there's a scar. So like to me, the, up until literally 2 weeks ago, I always thought people from Montana were a little loony because I
Hmm.
was like, why did that person offer that? And everyone else was like, yeah, you could do it. Yeah, you could do it. It's
Right.
like, nope, nobody thought this was a weird idea. Nobody thought this was a weird idea.
Hmm.
I'm gonna lie down and you're just gonna stitch me on the spot. But it makes sense now because of Breaking Bad.
Sure.
But okay, so now like if that is your set point, what is the rest of your life looking like?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Are you living in fear? I don't know. Are you like, well, one day I'm gonna get this. Well, if I get hit in that, like,
Mhm.
right? Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, like if you have insurance, that's the only way that it's good over there.
But will you have like enough insurance to cover it? Like, do you have cancer insurance? Do you have accidental insurance? Like, what's the level of it? Or is it like Athena? You have to pay a minimum and then they'll cover the rest.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That could be things like that,
You know what I'm saying? Like,
but it depends. Yeah,
bro.
but it's again, it's like job related, right? Got a good job, you're gonna have good insurance. If you don't have a good job, you may not have insurance.
And how many people are
I
just
mean,
like
that was the whole
have a regular job?
idea. That's the whole idea of affordable healthcare, also known as Obamacare, right? That was what it's
Yeah.
trying to fix in their country.
But like, what are we doing?
Hmm.
It seems like a very basic thing. Now that when you look at it from that perspective, you're like, healthcare seems very basic to have,
Hmm.
right? Like to think that you have to pay so much money out of pocket. Like I think like if you have a baby here, it's like, oh, it's free, whatever. Unless you want to pay like extra to have like a better
Sure.
experience.
Yeah.
Um, but the bare minimum's free.
Hmm.
So if you just want to just like kick that baby out, sure. Like you'll pay nothing. But if you want like, I want a better bed, I want like a solo
Yeah,
room,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
whatever, you can pay for that. Um, but my cousin who had like his two kids, she was like, I paid like 12,000 per kid.
Hmm.
Like, bro, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, how much do you have saved up? You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
dude, that's crazy. That's how people are living, though. You're like living in fear of like, I don't know. It just seems like obviously broken to me now. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But we covet it as being like the best. And you're like, actually, not really. Like the landmass thing that you were saying, like, we
Hmm.
can't spread the resources and like the fact that everyone's living in fear of like medical bills.
Each state is
That's
different too, though. That's why it runs differently over there.
okay. What, like, so is there like medical stuff?
Yeah, there are some medical. Oh, like when I went to Hawaii, I learned that the natives there, it's all free for them.
Hmm. Well, probably that's probably because of the deal, because like they took over the land.
Yeah, there could be. Yeah, sure, there could be. But I know there's other states that had. Each state runs differently. It's not like a federal thing.
Hmm. Okay.
So some states have better healthcare for their state citizens.
Oh, I see. I see. I see.
So it could run different because there was already a version of Obamacare, which was Mitt Romney care in his own state,
Oh, really?
which is a Republican state. Yeah, something like similar. So they already had some things like that for it, but it was only in that state, right?
Oh, okay.
So each
Okay.
state
That's
has
interesting to know.
some version or some things. They do have some, some form of certain things that are free or covered by the taxes, but like it's not like everything. But
Okay.
better for always. But there's more privatization over there, so better treatment's going to be found in privatization.
For sure. No, no, totally, totally. If you're looking for like hyper specialized treatment, totally makes sense. Yeah, of course. But like, I really think that basic, like, I mean, one thing we're lacking for here is dental, basic dental. So I know a lot of people who don't have dental insurance, they'll like get crazy cavities and then they'll have to get like root canals or like teeth
Mm-hmm.
pulled because they just don't have the insurance for it and they just don't want to pay for it, right?
Yep.
But like, and they're trying to introduce that now, right? Jagmeet Singh, I think, is, or
Sure.
maybe they do have it actually. And anyone under 90K, I saw it in my
Mm-hmm.
government portal. So like, I feel like health and dental just seem very basic to human, not human rights, but like, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like for an evolved society. Let's say that it's not like a right for you because like laws are made up, bro. None of this is real.
Mm-hmm.
But like for an elevated future society, it's like why would we not all have, which is going to be interesting too because I wonder if the conversation will veer towards like UBI as well. You know, it's like a basic human right is enough to live for your apartment, so we'll give you UBI as well. Or for a basic human right for an evolved society,
Yeah.
I would say. Because it's not for every, you know.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm trying to say? It's like
Mm-hmm.
these things seem, because like why would you want to live in fear of living on the street? Why would you want to live in fear of having tooth decay?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you want to live in fear of having like a health problem you can't treat? It makes no sense. Because if you're living in fear, how can you like elevate um to like a different, like how can you be kind if you're living in fear?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't be because you'd be like scarcity mindset. Oh no, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if that explains a lot of like their mentality. Like I wonder how much that spills over into like their actual attitudes and like their choices.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like maybe you will have to pick that job that you hate because it has healthcare, whereas the job you love doesn't have healthcare.
That's
And you're like
possible.
weighing the pros and cons.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I really think we're due for social overhaul. Like, all right, question for you. What if, because they've been saying this a lot, that like you'll own nothing in the future. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what if the trade off for an enlightened society, like an evolved society, is like everything is rented? Would you do it?
Yeah. Everything is
Like it's like
rented.
yeah, well, no, it's like they figure out a way to like balance the incomes and like whatever, but you the government would own everything. Is what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's all rented.
Right.
So like all the homes are all bought, and like maybe the reason why you get into a better place is, you know, your value to the society plus how much money you make, social credit score.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like people are worried about that for like China for doing that, but like what would what would the cost be that you would accept? I guess it kind of sounds like communism though.
Yeah.
Like the
That's what
government
to
owns
say.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like what if that was the cost? Like communism and we'll solve all your problems, or like perfect communism
Yeah. Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
I
Or
think
some
that
form of
actually
that
sounds,
could be like socialism too, right?
yeah, socialism is like the neo-communism. Socialism's
Mm-hmm.
communism. But like yes. So like we'll call it socialism because it's a politer term. So I think I would actually be in favor of socialism versus like a fully free market society was like, good luck, fend for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways it does sound good, but I don't. I think that'll have a detriment on growth, on
Okay,
change,
explain why. Why do you
because
think so?
normally change or technology things happen is when there's issues. If there's no issues,
Competition. Oh, wait, what do you mean? Issues.
yeah. If everything is owned by the government, right, it's being controlled. There's no real competition,
Okay.
so that will stag. That will
Oh, I
stag.
see what you're saying.
That'll bring. That'll stag technology.
Okay, well, no. How about just like socialism to the point of like ownership of like what you like, basically property ownership, because the prices of houses are just so expensive now. It's like, who's gonna buy this?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if you spent, you see them on like reels all the time. You see like $1 million for a house in Toronto is like so tiny, and then $1 million for a house in like freaking Texas is like gigantic.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's like, okay, nobody's gonna buy that $1 million house, and if you are, tough. You know, it's like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know, um. So with that, it's like, what if they solve that? They're just like, we'll just own everything, you'll rent from us, but we'll also give you the benefit of like healthcare, dental care, UBI. Like it
Well,
almost feels like we need to be taken care of in the basic needs so that like if you look at all right, not to sound crazy. Okay, so like I'm actually thinking of it like logically. Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
mhm.
right? So if you look at the hierarchy, food, water, shelter is at the very bottom. So if the government covers that for you, you have the opportunity to evolve. That's why I'm like an evolved society. You can hit self-actualization because you're
Yeah.
not worried about the basic necessities. So if the government covers that and they're like, oh, you're just renting it.
Hmm.
I think that's actually way better because it's like, well, what kind of art would you create? If you had all the free time, what would you make? You know?
Yeah, we've
And
discussed
and I
this. I
thought,
don't know if
no,
that will.
right, we've discussed it, but in a negative way because we're like, oh, people are gonna be bored, right? And it's like, because this was in the Life 3.0 book that
Mm,
like jobs give people jobs stave off boredom. Um, basically, it gives us like meaning and purpose.
mhm.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so like I think we all crave meaning and purpose, but we're so stuck in the lower levels of survival that we don't have the opportunity to evolve.
Mhm.
Because why are these people all speaking the same thing? Because you want to keep a job. Okay, why do you want to keep a job? Because you have to pay for things,
Mhm.
right? So, like, can we have an honest conversation if you weren't so worried about paying for your rent to keep this job?
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, can we discuss other things rather than the weather?
Mhm.
But I get why you're discussing the weather. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, totally. Yeah, we're playing this game. Whenever I have that conversation with somebody in like a professional setting, I'm like, yeah, we're playing the game.
Mhm.
Okay, I'll just play the game. But I'm bored of the game because I know where this game ends. It's like it's meaningless. We're
Yeah.
just talking for the sake of talking. I'd rather just not talk, you know? But you're doing it because you need to survive.
Mhm.
You get what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
professionalism. Like,
Sure.
I
Yeah,
want
yeah,
people
yeah.
to like me so that I have money, you
Mhm.
know? But what kind of freedoms would we actually have if we stopped worrying about basic necessities? Is my question.
Basic necessities. Yeah, sure.
Food, water, shelter.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just make that free. Not
Mhm.
free, but like we got to give up something. So it's like, okay, you will own the items in your house, but you won't own the house.
Yeah, okay.
Simple. I'm like, okay, cool. I think I would be like, yeah, totally.
Mhm.
Like, can I move houses? Yeah, but there are like some hoops. Like maybe you got to pay more. So like maybe like you have like basic whatever, but then if you have a good job, you can still buy yourself out into like a better situation. You just won't own it.
Sure.
Or maybe you can invest in like houses outside the city. Maybe this is just a city only thing. People that live in the city can only rent.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
because
right, I understand.
if you
Yeah,
want to buy
yeah,
a house,
yeah.
go to the wilderness, bro. Like, build
Mhm.
a house there.
Mhm.
I'm just trying to figure out a way that it's like, if you just solve this, you can get to a better place. Because I feel like a lot of us are stuck, and maybe that's what the rat race is. Maybe the rat race is survival and keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah, in some way. Yeah, but like it depends, right? Our for here, yeah, we have healthcare and stuff covered, right? Those are some things that are very expensive in like
Yeah.
America. But there you can it's where the work is too, right? Accessibility to get to your job. That's another issue. There's so many other things that like shelter, sure, but then you can rent
Mhm.
places, right? There are apartments and things like that. But to own, it's always going to be, downtown core is generally going to be more expensive than outside,
Yeah, for sure. For
as it
sure.
usually goes. But I think it's going to be. It depends how the structure is built around it. I don't know how other countries do it, right? I don't know what are the rules in Asian countries, right? Like what is their
No,
like
there's ownership in Asian
yeah,
countries.
no, I know there's ownership, but then there's like how they design certain things, right? So now condos are over there like very very small size compared to it, but depends on your area, right? But
Yeah.
it's I would say it is better. Yeah, that's why we have healthcare and things like that. Then you don't have to focus on some things. You can focus on that. You have other things that you can look at, right?
Yeah.
But this is again, everything's all made up, right? It's all we're just trying to figure things out and
Yeah.
evolve our
But
society, right?
but like I'm wondering because people just like the technology thing. It's like, oh, I don't want to give up my freedoms. I'm like, well, how far has that gotten you?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like it it's because it's what you know.
Yeah,
If I
yeah.
told you that none of that stuff existed when you were born, you'd be like, oh, that's the way the world works.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I was like, oh yeah, like you're born now, you're like, oh yeah, there's no such thing as ownership. You'd be like, oh, that's cool. But you wouldn't like be like, what about my freedom? You know?
Yeah, yeah.
But all right,
I
wait,
think it
hold on.
depends on, it's the
Yeah.
constitution. It's how the city or the government. You're generally going to pass rules based on the rules, the foundation of that country, right? So like America has always been this idea of freedom. That's why everybody can have
That's what I mean.
guns,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Anybody
yeah.
can buy guns. You can't
But
change that law. It's not going to happen.
totally. But maybe because I always hear this like America's an experiment on freedom
Mm-hmm.
because it's only been 100 years or something, right?
Yeah,
200,
yeah,
let's say, right? In the vast history of time, that's a tiny blip.
yeah.
So maybe this experiment was incorrect.
Or it's not finished yet.
But if you give it enough time, will it just become socialist?
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Obama, let's say Obamacare takes over. Well, that's a socialist invention.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like free dental in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, socialist invention. It's like maybe socialism is the way. We just thought that we wanted a taste of freedom. We're like, oh, it's not actually the move. Because if you freedom, all right, freedom, we're all free. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think, all right, let's redefine this. When you say, I want a free market society, okay, like basically whatever happens to you happens to you. That's not really free. Like that's not like, that is free, but in a different term. So when I think of freedom, I'm thinking like I could do whatever I want. Like right now, if I wanted to like, um, I don't know, start a business, I could. If I wanted to go, like that's a positive way.
Yeah,
If I wanted to like drink 10,000 liters of alcohol, that's a negative way. I would die, right? And it's like I have the ability to do that. That's freedom, agency, right? But when you talk about free market, it's almost like every dog for themselves. That's not really a good, that's like an individualistic perspective. That's not a collectivist or thinking about one another. That's more like a selfish approach.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, my business failing, good for you. That's on you.
Yeah.
Oh, I just lied to get my person. Well, you got to steal and you got to lie, cheat, and steal to the top. Like those are the tenets that are being built into you if you're thinking about a free market society. Everyone for themselves.
True. Yeah.
Okay, I got to cheat you out of this. Why you got to cheat them, bro? Like they're human too. Yeah, but it's every person for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're thinking collectively, it's like, well, what would benefit all?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that this experiment on a free market, I think it's doomed to fail because we are going to naturally move back to socialist terms because we need to think of each other as like
Sure.
brother and sister.
Yeah. I'm not saying I don't know about all that, but it is free market that brought us to where we're at now with our technology.
Like what? Yeah, yes, but was that a free market? Okay, we're gonna look at Asia. Was that a fully free? Because they're kind of socialist, right? Um, was that a fully free market, or was that just a response to what was happening here? So we, because you're like, okay, well, it brought us our technology, but we know that Asia was technologically advanced many years in the future than we are now. So it's like maybe you can still advance technologically without a free market, you just need a competition. I'm not saying that there's no competition in a socialist society. You still build a business. I'm just saying that you need to think collectively as the whole, and we need to. I think if you look out for your food, water, shelter, which is like what
Mm-hmm.
a communist country, a socialist country would look out for, then it's like, okay, do whatever you want now. Like, build something cool. You know,
Yep.
I really think, and it was in this book too, by what's his name, Gabor Mate, The Myth of Normal, and basically the whole book. It's a thick book. It just explains how the way we've developed society is in a way that's maladaptive to our psyche and our like natural way of being. And he's saying that we crave being a collective species because that's what we are. We're like pack animals,
Mm-hmm.
but we live as if divided, right? And this division is what's creating a lot of like mental health issues, physical health issues, all that stuff. And he's like, our society is literally killing us, right? And I was like, yeah, if you actually look at it, yes. But that's because we wanted this free market. We wanted every dog for themselves.
Sure.
Dog eat dog world.
Sure. Yeah.
But if you like follow socialism, that's probably why Asia's on the rise. Because they're like, what would be better for people, not just the 1%. Because it's like
And
we
it
have
depends.
a robot. Like I saw the video.
Yeah, it depends
There
on
you
how
go.
you say rise too, because there's, as a society, they're also having other issues, right? Where there's working more hours than having.
Okay, yeah, true. So like maybe we need to think about like it's not perfect, but it's like there's still something we need to because you're right. They work crazy long hours,
Mm-hmm.
right? Sometimes they sleep there and like they'll just pull like constant shifts. But there is also like okay. If you look at all the pitfalls of a free market and you look at all the pitfalls of social society, I would say that the free market has more pitfalls, right? Doesn't mean that the socialist society doesn't have pitfalls. It's just less problems to solve. Just
Mhm.
like, okay, cool. They're working too long. Let's fix that. Whereas like, but I also think they're trying to compete. That's also why they're working
Yeah, the
so long.
structure is done very differently. I even learned like it's how even like this education system. I didn't know about this. Our system is very different, right?
Compared to what?
Yeah. I'll say even the UK. When we're
Oh, wait, America or Canada?
Canada,
Okay, go.
right? Like we didn't have to normal education even through grade 4 up to in high school. Then you're deciding generally in high school where you want to go, right? You're at an older age
Yeah.
at this point.
Yes.
In the UK, you're starting at grade 4, and he's just a kid. He has to already kind of know where he wants to go because it's all based on how the schools are designed, and then based on that is where you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. I knew somebody from Europe who was talking about this, like streams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Thea was telling me where it's like she had a family that's from UK, and they're like, oh, there's the father was stressed. He doesn't like the kids. He hasn't picked the thing yet, and it's like, but he's only like whatever age he's at grade 4. He's still a kid.
Yeah.
On our perspective, right? It's like
Yes. No. I know what you mean. Yeah.
so.
You know what's all this? The Varna system. No, but that is what it is though. It's a modern Varna system.
Yeah.
Or like caste system. People don't know. You gotta
Sure.
listen to old podcasts.
Yeah.
But like it's a way to push people in the direction that they need to be going. It is though.
Yeah. But I think what I'm trying to say is like this is the issue, right? We've got different ways of running society. I think that's what's causing us to have different ideas and point of view. Like, what is the way to fix these issues? Is that a one world government? Is that a one system government?
Totally.
That everybody then are working in the same space, same level. We understand. But that means we have to understand that we're all as one species, right? We have to work as one species, and not individually, not nationality-wise, but as a one species.
That's an enlightened society, what you're talking about. That's like, no, but really though, right? No, for real. And like that if you look at UAP lore, that's the first step to off-worlding our planet, because we all need to agree that this is why are we infighting? If we're infighting, you're not going to leave this planet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's why they believe that, because like, oh, how come aliens haven't just taken over? Because they're like, if they're truly an enlightened species, they know that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what one thing I heard,
Like
Stephen Greer.
we're still doing
yeah,
things. We're still doing things that have been happening even like when the British had like ruled the countries, right? Which is what America's doing, which is controlling the seas in order for our economy to keep flowing. We have to watch the seas. Can't have pirates destroying our economy, right?
yeah,
This is the thing that this is the foreign policy of America, right? They are the ones that allowing everyone's economy to actually grow is because of what America has been doing, covering the seas. If we don't do that, well, we're still doing this. We've been doing this for like centuries, right?
yeah.
We're still doing
Yeah.
the same thing.
We're still running the same archaic programming, even though we are evolving in our knowledge too quickly.
Mhm.
I think that's why we're all having problems with this, where it's like before, if you look at 2008, they didn't have the internet, right?
Yeah.
They did have the internet, but they didn't have it like to the capacity we do.
Sure.
And like with the movie, right? Everyone's trying to be homogeneous, right? And with that, it's like you don't ask any questions. Life's moving the way it is. Don't worry about it. Just
Mhm.
do your job. But now we have like the luxury of information. And because of that, we're going like, what is the better way to solve this problem?
Right.
So like to say those things like what you're saying, I'm like, no, that's true. But there's a lot of steps that need to be, like, you need to understand that we're all like one species.
Mhm.
And then like, why are we archaically running the same system? Is there a better way to do this? You know?
Yeah.
But you have like, to go back to Stephen Greer, because like I paused that thought. Even though I don't really jive too much with his alien theories, but like this one thing that he was saying makes a lot of sense to me, which is like aliens would be more afraid of us than us of them.
Mhm.
Because if they were able to successfully work together to off-world and travel through space, they're a benevolent species. Because they have fixed their like world problems, and then they moved on.
Yeah.
There's no way we can get to space and start like going around if
Mhm.
everyone's fighting. Right? Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
why is it a race war between like China, US, Russia? Who's gonna get there first? Like, or if we just put all of our best minds on it,
Yeah.
can we not get there together?
Mhm.
Right? And he was saying, like Stephen Greer was saying that like if these are truly advanced like the way we think they are, it would have required everybody to work together.
Mhm.
And that's why it's like that's the first step. Well, that's one of the steps towards multi-planetary species. And I think we're getting there. Because like how many people are having these like I really don't think we're the only ones having these conversations. I think we're seeing like a lot of problems, but you do see a lot of people, or no, it's like this. If they're all acting in the same way and you have one person that is acting differently, that opens the door for doubt for how they're living their lives.
Mhm.
So what I mean by that is like just by being a curious and inquisitive person, just following the things you like, you naturally are the spark that can change the world. So again, so the person that I was like showing around Toronto and stuff, they came over and like I had my stack of books out, you know, some weird books, and I saw them like look at my books and I was like, oh man, they're gonna think I'm a weirdo because I was like it was like about like Life 3.0, the technological universe, and then I literally saw them like move the book. I don't think they saw me see them, but they moved the book and they're like, it's a UFO book, okay? And then like they moved over as another UFO book, and then they put the books together, and I'm like, that's gonna plant a seed in your mind.
Yeah.
Because you know I'm really nice. They're like, oh, you're so nice, like you're a nice person, like, but I'm reading about like
Mhm.
AI advancements in UFOs. Why are they reading about this? And that becomes like the wait, there's more here,
Sure.
you know, versus like, how's the weather? What are you gonna do? What are you
Yeah,
gonna buy? What
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? And those little, I think there's enough people out there with these tendencies that they're actually going to just spread these like embers around the world.
Mhm.
And I think we will change eventually towards all the things that we've been talking about, which are just like obvious solutions. I don't even think these things are out of the box. Like things we're saying, it's like, they're pretty freaking basic, bro.
Yeah.
It's out of the box because they're not in reality yet.
Mhm.
And they're not what you're used to, you know?
Sure.
Like I remember I played this one video. It was the Out of Africa video. Um, it wasn't that one, but it was like I found a sped up version because I couldn't play them the whole series. So I just like shared this with someone. Basically, how we all came from Africa, we're all one species, and like
Yeah.
how racism's silly because we're all one people. And they're like, "Whoa, I didn't even know this was a thing." And I'm like, "Whoa, okay." But they're old, so it's like,
Right,
okay,
right,
you
right.
didn't Google this, you didn't know, right?
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
you really think that like you're white, I'm black, they're Asian. You really think we're separate, and that's just how the
Mhm.
world became,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it's like, no, no. Through evolution, we just became divided genetically. And
Yeah.
when you look at it like that, it's almost dumb to be racist. Like, no, it's just cultural differences,
Mm.
bro. You just grew up in a different world. Like, I don't care that downtown Toronto is into like old stuff. I just laugh at it. I'm like, all right, cool, that's you, bro. But it's not my thing.
Mhm.
I'd rather be in the future.
Yeah.
But you do what you want, and then when you want future tech, come to me.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? If I want to go in the
It's there.
forest, I'll go
Yeah,
to you,
yeah,
bro.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like the only difference is cultural things, and cultural things are just based on where you lived.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was dope. Any other things? Well, what time are we at? I do want to say like two related kind of things. quickly.
1:30.
Well, what?
1:30. 1 hour 30.
Okay, these will be super quick.
Okay.
So in keeping with that about like the nature of culture, I started watching Naruto again,
Mhm.
and the life lessons are crazy because I was like, I didn't 100% complete it like a video game. I skipped the fillers, but I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna watch the filler. I'm just gonna watch it 100%. So I'm watching the thing, and I'm like, dude, what if everybody watched Naruto? Because the life lessons are crazy. It's all about like looking out for your friends, being upstanding citizen. You know,
Yeah.
like what we were talking about, like the people in downtown Toronto, like their mindset's totally different, and like
Mhm,
ours are different.
mhm,
It's
mhm.
like what if we got rid of like if there was that one world government, you got rid of these superficial narratives and you just pump people with like aspirational inspiration. Then would you want to sit at home? You know, we're like, oh, UBI would be bad because everyone would sit at home. It's like, not if you program them not to be.
Sure.
It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, you're sitting at home, but be a upstanding member of society. They're like, oh yeah, that's
Mhm.
what I could do with my time. You know?
Yeah.
So that was interesting. And then the last thing is um, I've been tapping into, I meant to like Google this, and I don't know if this is not racist, but I'm pretty sure this is true. So like I've been tapping into gospel music recently. I don't know if you saw in the WhatsApp chat. It's
Mhm.
very weird. So like one person shared a gospel song, and I was like, oh, this is really good. Kirk Franklin. So if you've ever heard of them. And then I listened to the whole album, like, whoa, this is really good. And what I noticed is I've also been delving into soul music, which is like old school jazz, kind of not jazzy, but like, you know, soul music,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
these, you know. Um, and I was like, I've noticed that a lot of those popular soul songs got remade into new songs.
Mhm.
So like Lady Marmalade, remember that song?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, Pussycat Dolls.
Mhm.
That's an old song. I just found out that that's an old soul song. And then a lot of like the samples that Kanye West used, they're all soul samples and like all this stuff. And I was like, the reason why we like there's an energy with it that's different than other styles of music. Like if you listen to rock, it's like angry.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? If you listen to like hardcore rap, it's angry.
Yeah,
If you
yeah.
listen to soul, there's something like aspirational about it,
Uplifting.
uplifting, right? So, my question I was going to ask FYI, but I didn't have time. Um, is it because soul music came out of slavery? Wasn't that like them in the fields and they were like singing those like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like if you watch those old movies, you're like, oh, you're singing the soul music,
Mhm.
right? And then it's interesting because you're like, it's tapping into something that other people can't hear. Because I was playing it for other people, I'm like, oh, it's too old. I don't like it. And you're like, no, you can't feel it though. They're
Yeah,
really,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Right.
you know, that's why it's called soul music. You can really feel the soul,
Mhm, mhm.
you know? And like, I really think that there's something to religion that's good.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like I'm religious, but it's just like hearing this, I'm like, oh, if you're listening to this all day, like I just started putting it on and made my mood better. It's like, yeah, all right, I can tackle any problem. Yeah, God's with me. Yeah,
Yeah,
you know, like any suffering is like achievable because
yeah,
God's
yeah.
on my side. You
Exactly.
know, kind of thing.
Yeah,
And you're
yeah, yeah.
like, that's an interesting mind program. So I've been playing around with that recently because I'm like, what can I do if I just started believing that there's somebody looking out for me?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like every step I make is like divine intervention. You know, there are no wrong steps,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like there's something there.
Yeah.
And then like it would be interesting to see like what about Hinduism and like all that stuff. Like what are these people tapping into that I've just like growing up Catholic, you're just like, oh man, I don't want to do that anymore. But then going back with like fresh eyes, you're kind of like, what are you benefiting from that I'm not benefiting from?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you so happy? I don't know. You know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, that is true. Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like my mom and not so much my dad. My mom's super religious, right? She's really she's not like crazy religious, but like
Yeah,
I would say she's like very religious. You know my mom, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And like, but she's met with death all the time.
Yeah.
Like she's a nurse, right? And like in the critical care, and like you're seeing dead people all the time. And actually, no, hold on. Here's a better one because I was gonna go in that example, but here's one that she does. It's like superstition. She has a blessed rosary that's in her car,
Mm.
and she'll take it with her whenever she flies because she's afraid of flying. But she believes that with that, God will be looking out for her
Mhm.
and the plane won't crash and she won't get into a car crash.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, what is that? It's obviously placebo, but it's like, what is that? You're using a skill that I don't know, or like you have something that I could steal,
And it's not a new thing.
a mind trick.
And even in
It's not a new thing, bro. That's what I'm saying.
Hindu cultures have that too, right? You're like, why do you think the Ganesha is
Oh,
there? You know why normally they put Ganesha in front? The remover of obstacles.
Your van had it before.
The remover of obstacles, right? To
Is that for traffic or what? Or
no, just like to get there safely too, right? Like
Oh,
remover
okay,
of
okay.
obstacles. It's just a general,
Oh yeah, I understand. Yeah.
like
See?
to not
But
have.
then it's like it makes you feel you're like,
Yeah, yeah,
oh,
yeah,
this
yeah,
is gonna
yeah. You have some protection, or you have some something that will help you deal with the situation too. Yeah.
And if it's regardless if it's real or not, it'll make you move because you're like, oh, that's not real. It's on your head. You're right, but my actions will be different.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's all in my head, it's not real. I will make choices that will shift me in a different perspective than you.
Yeah, without knowing it, we're using it as a tool. Without knowing it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's shaping our behavior
Yeah.
in like in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, one last question. What do you think? What would you say karma is? No, hold on, no. Not karma like not karma in the sense of like action reaction. I mean karma in like the Hinduism sense, like the yoga sense, where it's like do good action. Okay, so my what I mean by this is if I'm doing an action, because there's karma. We talked about this in the last podcast. 4 paths to yoga: bhakti, which is divine worship; karma, action; uh, raja, which is fitness; and then gyan, which is like knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I really gravitate towards like gyan yoga, which is like contemplation.
Mm-hmm.
We're like trying to figure out. We do a lot during this podcast. It's literally a gyan podcast.
Yeah.
If you think of it like that, but right. But there's a karma path to yoga. And they say if you just do karmic deeds, you can achieve like a unified yoga means union. So like a unified state of like we're all one and like all that stuff. So I was thinking about karma and people are like, yeah, just do good deeds. And I'm like, no, because if you do a good deed thinking that you're going to do a good deed to get good karma, that's actually a selfish deed.
Yeah, that's a different thing. Yeah.
Right? You see that too, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So it's like, what is karma then? How can you actually achieve karma in the truest sense? And I will tell you my response. I just want to hear what you think, and then I'll see what you think of my response.
Does that mean like being yourself?
I don't know what no, but what is it like? What do you think it means? I don't know.
Oh,
Like, how do you achieve right action to make the world a better place without making it selfish? Because you're right. It's like, hey man, just like give money to the poor. Why am I going to give money to the poor? Oh, because good karma. Oh, okay. So I'll give the
yeah,
money
yeah.
so I'll get good
That's a
karma.
different. Yeah, yeah. Of
Selfish.
course. Yeah, yeah, that's
So how do you achieve good karma without the selfishness? Because a lot of people think it's impossible, and I'm pretty sure I know how to do it.
okay. Explain.
Okay, cool. All right. So because even Tara said that she's like, um, no, we do good actions because we want to like it's psychological. Like, but that's what they teach you in school, which is like you do it because you want a dopamine response,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay. I think the only way to do good karma is to, well, you need two things to be fulfilled. One, a non-scarcity state. Because if you're living in scarcity, then um, you will you will naturally do negative actions because you believe that resources are finite.
Sure.
Okay. And then two, habituated response. You have to do it so much that you don't even think about it. It just becomes an automatic response.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, check this out. So um, I went to Arc'teryx. This is the stupidest fucking story. I went to Arc'teryx and I didn't even look at the price tag. I was like, yeah, Arc'teryx, probably like Nike. Just gonna buy the clothes. So I went in, I got 3 items. Like I spent like 20 minutes with a girl. Um, guess how much I spent? I went up to the counter. I'm like, I'll get these three. It was like 3 long sleeve tees.
Okay.
Okay. And then I was like, but before she put it through, I was like, what's your return policy, by the way? Because I was like, just in case this goes wrong, I need to know. And she's like, yeah, you have 30 days, any store. I was like, all right, any store. All right, cool. Click. That'll be, guess.
300.
Oh, I wish. I thought I would have kept it.
Oh,
Yes.
more. You're saying 500.
513.80. And so like me and my sister have this thing where it's like, if you've committed so much, you have to save face. So but that's why I asked the return policy. I was like, what happens if this goes wrong? All right, cool.
Mm.
Contingency plan. It's like 513.80. It's like, cool. That'll be card. Beep. And I ran out of the store, went straight to Yorkdale and returned that right away. I was like, no, I am not keeping this 513. Scarcity mindset, right? I was like, bro, it's not the move. On clothes, what are we doing? Right.
Mhm.
So then we were at this like yesterday, we were at this thing and I was like, oh, this is the spot, this is the spot, this spot. Oh, have you ever tried this? All right, cool. So we go in and then I know like people are just like, oh, Asians are polite. I'm like, no, it's just kind of like maybe we are polite, but it's just like how I was raised. So I was like, oh, have you ever tried this? All right, cool. I'm gonna get 3 of these, and then like da. And then I could feel that they're like, oh crap, like how are we gonna split this?
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, you like that? All right, that's cool. All right, I'll take these 3. But again, same mindset. I walked in the store and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna buy these things, right? And then she's like, all right, it's like $30. I was like, whatever. Even if I spent $100, whatever. So I was like, all right, click. And they were like, oh, thanks so much. I was like, yeah, don't worry about it, right?
Yeah.
But it's because in both situations, I wasn't working from a scarcity mindset,
Mhm.
right? I was just like, okay, I have money. I want this thing. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
get this thing. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But I had already made a pact in my mind, like, okay, you'll be okay with whatever number, except for I was like, all right, it's probably gonna be like 250. I had made a pact in my mind, right? And like with the food, I was like, all right, it's gonna be 200, like maximum $100. Turned out to be 30.
Sure.
I was like, all right, happy accident. But then when she said 500, I was like, scarcity mindset kicked in. No,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? So I ran, right? So like the first step has to be you have to not move with a scarcity mindset, right?
Sure.
And what I was doing, right? I was just like, okay, we want to try these things. We will get these things, right? And Tara's like, it's giving rich. Like, you think you're rich? And I was like, no, I'm trying not to move with this. Because, like, then I wouldn't enter the store. I'd be like, oh, should I? No.
Yeah.
But it's like, I need these things, so I'm going to
Mhm.
get them. Okay.
Mhm.
And then the next thing was habituated response. Like, when my uncles and aunts come, like, that's just how my parents do it. So I was like, yeah, this is just what we do. Okay.
Right.
Right. Like, I show you around and treat you, whatever.
Mhm.
And they're like, But I think that's good karma. And to me, when they're thanking me, I'm like, no, just whatever. It's like, it's
I
just
feel weird when
what we
people.
do.
Yeah.
But even it's like, to me, it was like, it's like thanking me for giving you a glass of water.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Right.
it's just a glass of water, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Chill out, you know? And, but that I think is karma. And I think that's how people do it. And then they're like, oh, you're so nice. It's like, I'm just acting through karma, bro. Like, but there's also a reason why I don't spend a lot of time with a lot of people. Because this is just how I move in my life. Like, if you look at stupidness I buy, it's like, that's just how I move, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm spending a lot of time with a lot of people, I'm gonna be broke, right? That's why you gotta guard your energy. You know?
Sure. Yeah.
But like, I think that, and the yogis did that too, right? They went to the mountains. They're like, dude, I can't hang out with too many people. But they're like, oh, but this yogi's so nice in the mountains. Like, yeah, because he's moving in accordance with karma,
Right.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
So what, all right, so what do you think about that? Do you think I had a nefarious intent being like, oh, now they're gonna like me. Now if I do this,
Yeah. No.
I was
Yeah.
genuinely like, right?
Just intention.
But that's
yeah.
right. I was literally like, oh, you've never tried this? All right, cool, let's try it.
Mhm.
Oh, you like Asian things? Cool, let's try it, bro. And like my excitement for like, let's try it. And then they're eating. I'm like, what do you think? It's good? It's bad? You let me know. Right?
Yeah.
But then it was like, that's karma.
Mm-hmm.
If you're like, hey, give money to the homeless person, my thought's like, why? Like, oh, you're so rude. You're not acting karmically. It's like, no, that would just be a selfish response. I would be doing this to make myself feel, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. That's true.
Yeah. Now, but to go back, see it full circle. If you gave us all safety and security, couldn't we all achieve a self-actualized state? Because I wouldn't have to worry about like, and that's why I think socialism is the move for a unified global society.
Yeah, I think that's what I was about to say. Yeah, maybe it has to be a global thing, because if it's not a global
Yeah.
thing, right, you can have pockets of culture that have that, but then other pockets that don't have that are likely to attack you for that.
Yes, the barbarians at the gate. You're 100% correct. And that is what they said actually biblically. Like if you look into like ancient Bible stuff plus alien stuff, that's what people were afraid of. Actually, even in China, they were afraid of the Mongols. Because like that's why they built the wall, bro.
Yeah.
They were afraid. The giant wall of China is literally because they were afraid of the barbarians. But in their society, they were like an evolved, enlightened society.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they made like mathematics and like all this. Like, how could you build a wall so crazy if you weren't an enlightened society? You were
Right.
all working towards a goal.
Yep.
You know, you couldn't be in a fear mindset in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
We'd all have to be like, we really need this. So we're going to work together to make it. The pyramids, we really need this. So we're going to make this. You know?
Yeah.
But you're right. You have to keep the enemies outside. And that's why you need a nuclear bomb. Because you need the biggest weapon to protect yourself from other weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ironic. But yeah, like you know.
Yeah.
That's why I said the sharper the sword, the greater the capacity for benevolence. Because I would like, even we were like talking to some weirdos. Like, we weren't talking to them, but like downtown Toronto, a lot of weirdos,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And like, I was like, I can kill you in a second, bro. Like, I 100% can kill you in a second.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't worried. I was like, you're also like you're a little drunk. So it's like, it would just be so easy. So it's like, I can literally have this conversation with you. This one dude like walked in, I didn't tell you this, but like I was driving and then this guy was like, hey, came up to the car. I had my window down. I was like, oh, who does that? He's like, oh, how much for your car? And I was like, what? But there was no like fear. I was just like, oh yeah, it's about like, you know, this much. And then he's like, oh, I'm looking for a car. I'm like, all right, that's cool, man. But like people would be like, oh, why are you talking to me? Blah, blah, blah. But I was like, oh, I can get out and kill you though. So you need like the sharp sword, you need the nuclear bomb for the barbarian in order to.
Right.
Maybe this is why they all practice like wrestling and martial arts, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like the Japanese always katana samurai because they're so secure in their skill. Safety and security.
Yeah.
They're secure so they can become self-actualized. Anyways, all right. That was long-winded. And what time are we at right now?
1 hour, almost 50 minutes.
Okay, we should jump off. I might be going to Washington D.C. because of you.
Okay.
You talked it up so nice. I was like, my sister, like, you want to go? Like, Visual Say it's cool, bro. She's like, all right, I'll go. I'm like, yes. Go see those museums. Sounds so cool.
Yeah. That's cool. If you like museums.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, yeah, I'm into that. Like, we're into very similar things, so I'm sure it's good if you think it's good.
Yeah, the structures and all the buildings of the government structures are pretty big.
Pretty impressive, eh?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Hopefully, it ends up panning out. But if I go, it's because you said it was hype.
Okay.
All right. Till
All
next week. Tasty Fish.
Later.
Bye. All right. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all those fun things, and check out our sponsors: Zenro Clothing Co., Portian Bakery, and Podbean. Take it easy, Fish.
Peace.